259th session of the Southern Baptist Convention, assembled in St. Louis, Missouri, is now in order. Let's give God the glory today. Would you join me? Give God the glory for what He's done. Yesterday, we met together in a very powerful time, and we have seen history made at this Southern Baptist Convention, and we're thankful for the power of God and the people of God, and thank you for being here today on this second day of this 2016 Southern Baptist Convention. Let me share with you just for a brief moment that we have had 11,581 unique people that have been engaged in this Southern Baptist Convention and 7,269 registered messengers, which is literally up from 5,407. And we're thankful to God for that. Thank you for doing that, and praise the Lord. We thank the Lord for it. I also want to thank God for Dr. Chad Keck, who was obviously presiding there for a moment, our second vice president, dynamic pastor and leader from the state of Ohio, which was such a dynamic state to be in last year. And today we're going to enter into hearing a report from Dr. Andrew Hebert, who is the chairman of the Committee on Order of Business. And I want to just tell you folks, this committee pays a heavy price. And you just cannot imagine the way this group has had to have elasticity and the flexibility. And Andrew, thank you for your leadership. The committee, thank you. You've been unbelievable, and you know Ronnie Floyd loves you. Would y'all give your gratitude for the Committee on Order of Business today?
And good morning to you messengers. It has been a complete joy and privilege to serve Southern Baptist in this way. Today is my last day as chairman of the Committee on Order of Business, and Mr. President, what a great honor to have served with you over your 2 terms in really reshaping the way the annual meeting looks and flows. I want to take a moment and just recognize and thank several people who have put a lot of work into making this annual meeting possible, most of which is done behind the scenes, and it's in many ways a thankless job, but I want to introduce you to the members of the Committee on Order of Business. First of all, I'd like to introduce you to Kathy McAdoo from Nevada. Kathy served now for 3 years and is rotating off this year. Ron Crow from Missouri. Ron is also rotating off this year after having served 3 years. Ron has been our vice chairman this year. I'd like to introduce Grant Etheridge from Virginia, serving his first year. David Galloway from Colorado, who's also serving his first year. And finally, Rod Martin from Florida, who will begin serving as chairman in the upcoming year. I also want to take a moment and let's thank them. I'd also like to thank the staff of the Executive Committee, particularly a couple of individuals who rarely get recognized, but their work is absolutely indispensable, and that's Augie Bodo and Christy Peters. And let's thank them for their tremendous help as we've worked together to make this a great annual meeting. At this time, Mr. President, the committee would like to nominate for election as the 2017 convention preacher, Roger Spradlin. Roger is the pastor of Valley Baptist Church in Bakersfield, California, and as alternate preacher, Vance Pittman, the pastor of Hope Church in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Thank you very much. You've heard the motion today relating to Roger Spradlin being the convention preacher next year, and the alternate is Vance Pittman from Las Vegas, Nevada. And so today, you have heard that. Are you ready for the question? All in favor of electing these men to serve in this capacity, would you please raise your ballots? You still have your ballots? Outstanding. Wonderful. Thank you. And if you happen to be opposed to that, would you please raise your ballot? Thank you. And the affirmative have it. And we look forward to hearing next year in Phoenix Dr. Roger Spradlin, who is a tremendous pastor and preacher out in the state of California. Congratulations, Roger Spradlin.
Mr. President, it's also our committee's responsibility to nominate a convention music director. Our committee has chosen to wait on that nomination until the results of the presidential election are finalized, and so we'll make that nomination at a later point today. Mr. President and messengers, events yesterday afternoon and the volume of convention business made it necessary to carry over some items of business until today. And in order to complete the convention business, the Committee on Order of Business moves that the order of business adopted by the convention be amended as shown in your SBC Bulletin Wednesday edition. The changes will give the messengers an opportunity to finish hearing the report of the Resolutions Committee, finish the election of officers, and elect worship leaders for next year's annual meeting. So on behalf of the Committee on Order of Business, I move to amend the order of business as reflected in the SBC Bulletin Wednesday edition.
Thank you. You have heard the motion made by Dr. Hebert. Are you ready for the question? All in favor of affirming the adjustment of the order of business for today, would you please raise your ballots? Thank you. Any opposed to that, would you please raise your ballots? There is none. We're thankful for that. And so today, thank you, Dr. Hebert.
Mr. President, finally this morning, one of our responsibilities as a committee is to make recommendations to you as the messengers as to the disposition of all of the motions that were made yesterday afternoon during the introduction of new motions opportunities. And so at this time, I would like to communicate this report regarding yesterday's motions. The committee determined that the following motions deal with the internal operations or ministries of convention entities. Under SBC Bylaw 26B, these motions are automatically referred to the appropriate SBC entities for consideration and report to the 2017 Southern Baptist Convention. To the Executive Committee and all SBC entities, motion number 3 by Lonnie Wilkie of Tennessee requesting SBC entities to examine media policies to give greater openness to media. To Lifeway, motion number 4 from Graham Weaver of Kansas, encouraging Lifeway to publish the memoirs of SBC presidents. And to the Executive Committee, motion number 22, Victoria Gergone from North Carolina, requesting registration materials and badges to identify veterans and active duty personnel.
Thank you. Under the convention's rules, these motions are referred as indicated by the Committee on Order of Business.
It's the convention's long-standing practice to refer complex motions, including motions which affect the Constitution or bylaws, to the Executive Committee for its consideration. So on behalf of the Committee on Order of Business, I move that the following motions be referred to the Executive Committee of the Southern Baptist Convention for consideration and report to the 2017 Southern Baptist Convention. Motion number 5 from Richard Spring of California, amending the SBC Constitution to make racial discrimination evidence that a church is not in cooperation with the convention. Motion number 6 from Andy Perryman of Georgia, amending the SBC Constitution to require cooperating churches to relate to a state convention and association. Motion number 11 from Steve Taylor in Indiana, requesting a study of the Baptist faith and message. Motion number 18 by Ed Stetzer of Tennessee, requesting a study on affiliating with the National Association of Evangelicals. And motion number 19 from Doug Hubbard of Arkansas, requesting a bylaw amendment on the announcement of nominees by the Committee on Nominations.
You have heard this motion to refer from the Committee on Order of Business. Is there any discussion? If you're in favor of referring this motion or these motions, please raise your ballots. Thank you. You may lower your ballots. And if you're opposed to the motion or the motions to refer, please raise your ballots. Thank you. The affirmative has it. The motion is carried, and the motions are referred to the Executive Committee.
Mr. President, I further move that the following motion be referred to the Committee on Order of Business. Motion number 2, John Boquist from Virginia, requesting that the Order of Business Committee allocate more time for the Mission Board reports.
You have heard the motion to refer this matter concerning a future order of business to the Committee on Order of Business. Is there any discussion? Yes, microphone 2A. What is your desire, please?
I'd like to ask a question of Dr. Hebert. My name is Steve Bailey. A motion to change the bylaws yesterday. It was brought before the floor last night, the last 5 minutes of the meeting. I was here to ask that it not be referred. You totally ignored, as you've done others today or yesterday, totally ignored the button that was pushed here to ask not to be deferred. I just heard him make motions today about changing the bylaws. Why can my motion not have been made today instead of yesterday? Because it contained the bylaws just as well. Seems to me the only reason it was made last night, the last 5 minutes, to keep it from passing or keep them coming to the floor of the convention for them to talk about it.
I'm prepared to speak to that, if I may, Mr. President. Brother Bailey, it's good to see you again this year, and thank you for your consistent and diligent work in bringing forward your motion. The nature of your motion was asking the messengers to act directly upon a bylaw. According to our bylaws, that cannot be dealt with in the last session of the convention. Therefore, if we were to debate or discuss your motion, it would have had to have been done this morning. Another bylaw requires us that if we're going to schedule a bylaw, a motion for debate, we have to announce that in the session previous to the session in which it is debated, which means that we had to deal with it yesterday afternoon, and I took your motion in particular and announced the disposition of that motion. The other motions related to the Constitution or bylaws that I've presented this morning are not motions to ask the messengers to directly change or consider a bylaw. These are motions that are asking the Executive Committee to look at these bylaws, and so our motions are to refer them to the Executive Committee, which is in keeping with the desires of those messengers.
Okay, thank you very much, and we're back to the question relating to hearing this motion to refer to the Order of Business Committee in the future. Is there any further discussion? All right, we're ready to vote on whether or not we're going to do that. So all of you in favor of referring this motion, please raise your ballots. Thank you. You may lower your ballots. And if you are opposed to the motion to refer, please raise your ballots. Thank you. The motion is carried and the motion is referred.
Mr. President, on the advice of the parliamentarians and legal counsel, the Committee on Order of Business recommends that the chair rule that certain motions are not in order. And I want to provide a clarifier here. The work of an SBC entity is directed by its board of trustees. That's our system of governance and accountability. And a motion which seeks to have the convention, this annual meeting, exercise the authority of an entity's board is not in order. Messengers may offer motions which request, but not direct that an entity take an action. And let me also say at this moment that many of these motions, while ruled out of order, in subsequent years could be reworded in such a way that they could be handled perhaps in a different manner. And I want to take this opportunity to remind you that we have made a parliamentarian available to you as messengers. If any of you have a motion to make, I would strongly encourage, before you make that motion, to come to these desks to my left and ask for a parliamentarian, and they will help you craft that in a way that we can deal with it, okay? And so there are a few that the committee believes motions were made that were not in order. Motion number 9, Benjamin Hedrick of Kentucky directing Lifeway to publish resource materials relating to refugees. Motion number 13, David Roberts of Michigan directing Lifeway, NAM, and IMB to study possible funding of campus ministries in areas underserved by Southern Baptists. Motion number 14, Benjamin Hedrick of Kentucky directing seminaries to consider and investigate strategies to engage refugees. Motion number 16, Steve Wolverton from Maryland calling for an independent review of NAM's processes. The following motion is in the nature of a resolution, and the time for submitting resolutions to the Resolutions Committee has expired, and therefore this would also be ruled out of order. Motion number 15, Richard Sandberg of Louisiana, requesting the messenger's reaffirmation of Article 12 of the Baptist Faith and Message. The following motions propose that the convention take some action which is beyond the authority of the convention or of the messengers to this annual meeting, and therefore are ruled as out of order. And that's motion number 1, Joel Bradenbow from Florida, combining the work of the North American Mission Board and the International Mission Board into one World Mission Board. Motion number 8, John Wofford of Arkansas, requesting the removal of Southern Baptist officials or officers who support a right to build mosques. Motion number 12, Jerry Moss from Missouri, requesting the SBC to withdraw its amicus brief in the case involving the Islamic Society of Basking Ridge. This brief was not filed by the convention. This brief was filed by the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission. Motion number 17, Gus Rocha from Tennessee, creating a committee to fast, pray, and review Lifeway's curriculum for truth and godly living. Motion number 21, also from Gus Rocha of Tennessee, creating a committee to study the effectiveness of NAM's relief ministries. And then finally, Mr. President, I'm happy to say, thank you for being patient this morning, also recommended to be ruled out of order. Motion number 7, Paul Freese of Wisconsin, directing the Executive Committee to amend SBC bylaws 18 and 30 dealing with representation. The Executive Committee does not have the authority to amend a bylaw directly. And motion number 20, Michael Elsey from Michigan, requesting a study of funding for state convention camps and conference centers. Funding of this type would violate SBC bylaw 18.E.7.
Thank you, Dr. Hebert. And based off all of the research and matters relating, the chair rules that the motions are not in order for the reasons given.
This completes the report of the Committee on Order of Business at this time. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yes, microphone 2A, what is the purpose for you to be recognized for, please?
Joel Bridenbaugh, Messenger, First Baptist Sweetwater, Longwood, Florida. Just want to mention on my motion number 1, which was ruled out of order, very quickly, if I may, Mr. President.
Sure.
I'm happy to have that reworded, however the committee sees fit. I would really like for our North American Mission Board and International Mission Board, maybe with input from the Executive Committee, to consider combining their efforts to help us support even more missionaries. I would rather not wait an entire year to see that process start. So I'm happy for that to be reworded in any way it needs to be. Thank you.
Sir, thank you for your concern, and I would encourage you as the chairman to come to the committee order of business right over here. They're located right here. They're very accessible. And I want you to talk to them and share with them your heart. Maybe they can help us navigate toward a conclusion that would meet your desire. Are we good? Wonderful. Love it. All right, Dr. Hebert, thank you for everything, and may the Lord continue to use you greatly. All right, would you thank God for all of that hard work?